when I put the puppies out.
Look at you. This is like this is meringue season.
Even I went outside and went, woof.
All right, see, there we go. It's brisk. It's chilly. It's chilly.
We've got this, I think, for another day, and then it's 2 weeks of nothing but pouring rain.
Yeah, that's why I got my Christmas lights done, and we went out yesterday and we got the Christmas tree.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It was I'm not going out tromping through them. It was still muddy as all get out. I'm not tromping through the rain to go get my Christmas tree. What are we doing here?
We got ours on Saturday. We were going to do a U-cut, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find my saw in the garage, so I was waiting in line to go, see if they had one to borrow to cut down the tree. And in about the 3 minutes I was standing in line, my wife went and found one in the pre-cut, basically the first tree that she found. She's like, here we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think it is.
Fake
we live
tree,
in a
fake tree.
Gosh,
fake tree,
you are fake tree
tree
guy. You scream fake tree guy, and that's okay. But I think we live in an area where it is our responsibility to Clark W. Griswold and go out.
You act like I live out in like
cut
big
a tree
city.
down.
No, the reason I've mentioned this before.
I never said. I just think if you live in the Portland metropolitan area, we can go cut down a tree. We don't have to go lot surfing for it.
Well, that's true.
Go out in the scraggly woods.
But also,
Or
I have
tree farm.
numerous instances of complete terrorism as it pertains to trees.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
Yeah, no.
Here we
I'm
go
interested
again.
to see where this goes.
Here we go again.
Twice as a child, my dad ran out of gas
Yeah.
getting Christmas trees. So
yeah, that's the Christmas tree hunting's fault.
Yeah.
no. So
Hey,
yeah,
how about
terrorism.
this? How about this? Before you go and get your tree, put gas in your car.
one of those times the car ran out of gas in the tunnel on 26.
Which
a week before Christmas.
It means you are the worst humans ever.
Yeah.
Like running out of gas in the tunnel
Oh God.
is.
Wait, okay,
Heading
wait.
out of Portland and in like towards Beaverton.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
but
But
why were
wait,
you
but-
in Portland to get your Christmas tree?
Yeah.
I don't
You
remember.
head west,
Does
not east.
Does not compute.
No, I think we went up there and then we like cut around like St. Helens, somewhere around there. And we were looping back around that way.
You guys are really taking the scenic route.
Boy.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody had told my dad, like, oh no, I got mine at this place. And so we were just gonna go out there.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I was like 7, 8. But
Dude.
I just remember running out of gas in the tunnel and being terrified.
I don't know.
My dad has run out of gas 3 times in his life. Twice
There was a
for
dude
Christmas trees.
that I remember we went and got our Christmas tree from this dude. He had like a Christmas tree farm, and I was always like, that guy rocks. I remember being a kid and just being like, this dude's awesome. His name was Butch, and he had a big old mullet, and he was like a logger, right?
Okay.
And so he had an earring, and his earring, he had like the Barry Bonds dangling earring.
Oh.
Yeah, except for it was a chainsaw.
Okay.
It was a gold chainsaw hanging from his ear. And I was like,
Pretty
dude, this
Mr.
guy
T.
rocks.
That's pretty Mr. T.
Yeah,
But,
I thought he was the coolest guy.
I
can
guarantee
vibe
you
with
he
that.
had truck nuts too.
Yeah.
Nah, no, he didn't need that.
With the chainsaw earring?
No, he didn't need truck nuts, dude. He didn't need. You don't need truck nuts when you got steel suspenders and a chainsaw hanging from your ear, dude. You got all the.
like they go kind of hand in hand.
No, man.
Have you seen
No,
the-
he was actually bad. Truck nuts, you're compensating for something.
Have you seen the new thing with trees? Instead of cutting them down,
No.
you can rent a tree. So you do they
Yeah, this is very
they-
organic.
Yeah, it's exact. Very
Yeah.
granola. They unplant it is the phrase that I was
Right.
told, and I was like, okay, blow my brains out. I don't ever want to hear that phrase again.
So then what? You dig a giant hole in your yard to
No,
replant
no,
it
no,
and
no,
then
no,
give
no,
it
no.
back?
No, you give it back.
You give it back.
You give it back.
and then they do it for 7 years, and then once after 7 years, it stays planted.
So can you rent the same one
I mean,
over and over again? Because then
maybe.
that'd be pretty cool. Because you'd be like, oh, look at our little tree. He's
Look,
growing.
It's growing.
Yeah. Look
You
at how
like,
big
do
he
little
is.
marks on the door frame, like
Yeah.
how big it was when
Yeah.
you brought it in.
I will say satisfying. Number 2, holiday season satisfying achievement. First one is that there's something about planning the extension cords and timing everything up to where like you go straight from the plug and you have enough lights to just get everywhere you want to be, you know, and you're not having to
Excess.
unplug any bulbs to make it like you have dim spots or anything. Like you're not have excess wire anywhere. I did that with the house, which
Ooh.
was dad achievement number 1.
Nice.
The second dad achievement was I got all sorts of hell for why aren't you measuring this tree? And I was like, I don't need to measure it. I know how tall our ceilings are. And I got that, oh, really? Oh, really?
Is it the Allstate commercial with the woman who knows everything's too
Oh yeah,
small?
not
or
gonna
too big?
fit.
Not gonna fit.
Guess who eyeballed that son of a gun to like a half an inch with the star?
Nice.
Like I didn't have to take anything.
No clip off
There
the
was
top.
no trimming at home. I cut that thing down at the tree farm, and we loaded it on the car. We got it in the tree stand, and I was so ready for the oh god, this is gonna suck when it doesn't fit in the house. And we popped that bad boy up, and my wife goes, I think that's gonna work. And I was like, I know that's gonna work. And then we put that star on top, and there you have that like half inch of
You
clearance.
need the hallelujah playing in the back of your head. Hallelujah.
No, I had the Generation X WWE song playing, and I was crotch chopping, going, woo! I was Triple X, and Shawn Michaels just, yeah, look at that. Tree fits.
And then your kid's doing it a week later, and you're like, where did you learn that?
A week later, immediately.
Avoided the old Clark Griswold. Little full, a lot of sap.
Little full.
On the Vancouver Ford text line, we switched to a fake tree when we spent $90 on a tree
Yeah.
that was infested with thousands of bugs. Yeah, that's a game you play.
Mm,
That's a game you play with those trees.
yeah. I am, look.
Well, you don't
I,
bring it home and put it up straight in the house. You let that thing sit outside, like in the driveway for a day.
Yeah, you gotta let that thing dry out a little bit.
Yeah.
Which
Turn-
we didn't go
Turn
full day.
it into firewood, so that way it burns very quickly in your house.
Yeah. But it doesn't burn as easily as you think. It doesn't burn as
Well,
easily.
you water
as
that
think.
tree while it's up.
I know, but the whole like, let's dry it out. Make sure it's real good for kindling.
Though I do understand though the fake tree in that like you don't have to go back out and buy that tree over and over and over again. Like
Pays for
they're
itself
really
literally
expensive.
in a year.
No. Those things are
Dude,
expensive, man.
You can get it for $125 at Depot, Lowe's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how fancy you want your fake tree to be.
I don't.
It's all about the experience.
If you just want the basic tree with, no bells and whistles,
Yeah.
or then you can get the, the pre-lit, and then you can get it, twinkling lights, or, yeah, depends on how fancy you
I
want to
just
go.
want my basic tree, man. I'll decorate it. I'm cool with that.
Man.
Because the best part about it is, you know what you can do? You can leave it decorated and just put it away.
I understand why the olds do it. Like, you gotta. I gotta show my kids some sort of wilderness.
Mm,
You know,
That's fair.
There's a good comedian. His name's Dusty Slay, and he talks about like because we don't go camping much.
Sure.
And he was like, dude, I grew up poor.
What's much for you? Ever?
Nah, we'll do like maybe once a year.
Oh, okay,
maybe.
so it's in there.
I mean, it's been a couple of years since we've gone, so that's a maybe once a year. And if we're going camping somewhere, there better be like electricity nearby. Like we got a good place that we go to. Friend's got like his family's got a piece of land out there on the Malala River, and they have like electrical hookups and stuff like that to where like it's not camping. We're not roughing it, right? But Dusty Slay has a little bit where he talks about, he's like, I grew up in a trailer park, man. It's like, we're already poor. Like, we don't want to practice being homeless.
Yeah.
Like, why would you go camping? Like, he's like, that's just the next step, like going out in the woods. And my thought throughout my life has been like, dude, it's a slap in the face to my ancestors who found a way to build houses. And we're like, this is way better. And so that's why we have homes.
I pay a lot of money for my house. I like being warm in there.
But I feel like going and cutting out your Christmas tree, that's your one way of like, hey, this is just part of being an Oregonian. We're outdoors people today. Today we're outdoors people. and then, you can go rough it somewhere else.
My dad was always very much a glamper.
Mm.
Does not like sleeping on anything that doesn't have a bed.
Yeah.
Just-
I look, glamping sounds great too, but it's like also you're like if you get like one of those big fifth wheels, those are really
My
nice too.
parents had built. They literally-
Those are awesome.
He bought a newer one and then gutted it and rebuilt it entirely from scratch.
To me, that's not camping.
Yeah.
And that
It's
is
living
something
outdoors.
I could get down with that. Like,
it's not like a rinky-dink bed. Like it's like a sleep number bed
Yeah.
in the fifth wheel. It's ridiculous.
I have buddies like in college. They're like, hey, yeah, no, let's go out and we'll go camp. We'll just sleep on the ground. And I'm like,
That
no,
sounds terrible.
Yeah.
that doesn't sound fun.
I won't sleep on the ground. I'll be laying on the ground sleepless all night.
Yeah,
I've always been a.
I'm soft.
It happens.
Hey, it is what it is, guys. If that's what you consider soft, then call me soft. I'm not. I'd rather not.
I've thrown the. I have no problem camping. I mean, I did a lot of it involuntarily.
Yeah,
for-
man,
for
they had a
years.
lot of alcohol though, so I would always go.
See that's
You know?
that's one thing.
That would get me out there. Be
Um,
like, you're gonna miss a good time. Fire,
Usually if you
beer.
can
I'm like, yeah.
if you can find the ones who really don't like it, but they'll go and hang out and party and have some fun. If you've got a truck,
Mm.
you can do truck bed camping.
Yep.
Like you've got
Yep.
something firm, you're
Yep.
off the ground, you throw the
Mhm.
sleeping bag down in there, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Then I think you can just kind of like ease people into it.
Sure.
That's I think the safe way to do it. Or if things get really sideways, they can go like lay down in the truck.
Yeah. This text, Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. Vancouver Ford, your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online, vancouverford.com. Hey, that's where you can get one of those trucks, right? Go get yourself one of them F-150s. You can camp in the back of it. This text says, spend $100 on a tree, empty nesters this year. Next year, going fake tree. Totally get it.
Yep.
Totally get it.
Like,
I think there's going to be a time where like kids are in high school and they don't want to hang out with us, and it's like we're going to go get the tree, and they're going to be like, I want to go.
yeah.
And I'll be like, all right, fake tree it is.
I remember when we were younger, and I know this is like get off my lawn,
Mm.
but I remember seeing signs as a kid and even into high school where a U-cut tree or even the lot, hell, the lot in Beaverton right by right there in a hall in Shoals Ferry, right before Washington Square. There's a parking lot right there every year by the sports page where trees in that parking lot would be there. It's $25.
Yeah.
$25. Now we're at $100 for a tree.
Yep.
That's insane.
It is.
That's
Because all you
absolutely
people buying the
insane.
fake trees and putting the farmers out of business.
I don't think it's it.
That's what it
I
is.
think it's artificial markup, and that's
Well,
why
no,
we're buying.
It's
fake
not
trees.
artificial markup, though. I have heard this. Now, I do know some people in the tree,
In the tree
farming
business?
industry. No, this. Remember the heat dome?
You
in
know
like,
somebody like in everything.
yeah, my dad raised me.
Always
with
know a guy.
One rule in life: always know a guy. Always know a guy. But you remember the heat dome a couple years ago when it was like 120 degrees?
Mm-hmm.
That affected our Christmas trees. It affected like the
That's
growing of the Christmas trees, and it doesn't affect you that year. It affects you 3, 4, 5 years down the road because it killed off a lot of like the saplings when you
Mm.
have extreme heat like that, because we don't have that here.
Oh.
And this is like going back to the recall of the heat dome, talking to the Christmas tree people, and they're like, yeah, this is not good for us. It's like, it'll be good that like this Christmas, you'll be fine. Few Christmases from now, price is going to go up because there's supply and demand. Not a lot of trees around.
See, that's why you go fake trees.
It is. And you fake tree bastards are are making it so not as many people are going out anymore, too.
Just saying,
It would be a little bit of both. Well, a little bit of both.
fake tree life.
Yeah. Yeah, on the text line, always know a guy. Last words from an Italian mob boss. Dusty, are you Italian? My mother's maiden name is Nanetti, so
There you go. Babe.
Slightly.
not my father's side though. We got none of that there. Yeah. So get ready for it.
Your mamma mia.
Yeah.
It's a mamma mia.
Those are spicy meatballs. All right. You want to do a sports show?
I can take it or leave it.
Yeah, we're gonna get it today. We have got Kyle Bonagura, Pac-12 writer for ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna join us at the top of the 1 o'clock
Is
hour.
he just a writer now?
Yeah, I think so. What else did he do?
Because the Pac-12's gone.
God, that is,
Dark?
dude. We still got like the Pac-12 championship game.
Well,
There's basketball and spring sports.
But there's still roughly the same amount of teams out there in other conferences.
yeah, no, we can just
Yeah.
pretend.
They'll go to a different one.
He'll be the West Coast correspondent for the Big Ten
Yeah,
There you
see,
go.
there we go.
I like
And Big
that.
and ACC.
Yeah.
He's probably going to have his hands full
No,
moving
it's
forward.
multiple titles. The ACC,
And the-
Big 10, Big 12 coverage.
And Pac-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna have his hands full. This isn't getting easier for him. It's gonna get more
What
work.
other writer is covering 4 conferences going forward?
Nobody.
We got to ask him about that.
Nobody.
Huh. Are
Nobody.
you ready to cover 4
Like that
conferences next
Paul
year?
Rudd meme. Who'd have thought? Not me. Here we are. He's going to join us at 1 o'clock. We're going to talk Ducks, Huskies, college football playoff, and the Oregon State Beavers hiring Trent Bray. We'll also, much to my chagrin,
Go on.
I will be a man of character here,
Mm.
and I will say it.
Mm.
The in-season tournament
Ah.
was pretty damn exciting last night.
Got you to care.
Let's not go
Got
too
you
far.
to care.
Let's not go too far. But it was good basketball. We got to
Mm.
talk about that, and a little Portland Trailblazers news as well, huh? How
Oh.
about that? Let's go. Let's giddy up, Buttercup. And we have Aaron Rodgers. He's back
Mm.
after 79 days.
Insanity.
There's a air asterisk
Yeah.
right next to that. He's back.
Mm.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we'll talk about that. So we got multi-million-dollar offers for a Pac-2 quarterback.
Hey.
So let's get this show on the road, huh? We got a lot to get to all of a sudden. Beavers make it official. Now comes the real work. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
I'm soft.
that they were going to make it official yesterday, and I am very pleased with Scott Barnes and Oregon State. They had their ducks in a row. They went through the interview process. What was it, 7 candidates that they interviewed? And this was a long time coming. And like, this was the whole thing, is that we talked about this on Monday, which is if this was a surprise to Oregon State at all, that's on administration. It wasn't. They knew it. And they were ready to pull the trigger really quickly. From the get-go, it was Trent Bray was probably the leader in the clubhouse. And I think that is the right hire. It's the safe hire. And sometimes the safe hire isn't the best hire, right? And we have no idea what Trent Bray's success will be at Oregon State because we don't know the direction of the athletic department, right? We don't know what the funding's going to look like. We don't know what conference they're going to play in or what this does to their recruiting or really even like the extent of their assistant coaches pool, because that's a big reason why Jonathan Smith left when you look at what Michigan State offered him.
We got some clarification on, look, not only did Jonathan Smith get more money, it's more money for everyone, not just him, his assistant coaches, his ability to go recruit, NIL. It's across the board significantly more.
When you look at in Oregon State, by all accounts, they did give a pretty sweet pot of money towards Jonathan Smith, but what Michigan State did was give him that sweetened pot where he's going to work up to $7.8 million, which is essentially doubling his salary almost from what he got at Oregon State. And the assistant coaches pool at Oregon State was $4.75 million for this year. At Michigan State, the reports are, and I read this on Football Scoop yesterday, as all the details of Jonathan Smith's contract are coming out, the assistant coach pool at Michigan State is $10.75 million. For 10 assistant coaches, he is getting $6 million more per year. That's big time. Like that is a massive increase on who you can hire and who you can retain as a head coach. That's stability. And you need that when you are at a program like Oregon State or like a program like Michigan State, where what Jonathan Smith is going to be doing, and he's said it, is he's going to be continuing to develop talent there. And if you want coaches that will develop talent, you got to pay them to stick around. And now it also gives you a little bit of extra cash to go out and get those hired guns for your recruiting, and where you can go out and you can hire some of those pit bull recruiters to go and get some of the 4 and 5 stars to add to your 3-star guys that you bring in and turn into 5-star caliber players by the time they leave.
Yeah, 225% more cash is not insignificant.
No.
And they will need it because, as we talked about it yesterday, all of their quarterbacks are gone.
Yeah. At Michigan State,
Michigan State, 3 quarterbacks are gone. Okay. You don't know who they're going to bring with them because, look, even though Jonathan Smith left in a way that I think a lot of Oregon State fans are frustrated with, and you have every right to feel that way, he still has relationships with those players, and even the ones that probably feel burnt, even a David Martinez, he's still a great coach, and he built relationships with those guys. And I think there's probably going to be some guys that follow him to Michigan State.
Yeah, we know it's not going to be Martinez. Yeah. In all likelihood, it's not going to be Aiden Childs, right? Because of you just look at what it is on the surface. But as a player, when a coach leaves you for another job, you feel burnt by it, man. And it was like I never. Like when I was in college, we just not even the same planet that we're living on, right?
Yeah.
But I had 2 coaches leave for other jobs when I was in school, and it hurts you. It hurts you because of what you're told the program means, right? It's culture. What the program means to the head coach is what it's going to trickle down, and it's going to mean to every other player that's on the roster. And it hurts when somebody says like, "Hey, I'm going somewhere new, and I want what they have, not what I've been preaching to you to build here." And even when you have great success in doing that, and that sting is really hard to get over at first. You feel dumped. You feel like they left you. You feel abandoned. And that's why when Jonathan Smith said, I didn't want to abandon a place. Yeah, you do. Any coach that leaves abandons wherever they're at before, and they're going to somewhere better in their mind, right? And that is a tough thing to get over. But I will tell you, as the time goes on and you get to know that new head coach, whether it is a promotion or it's an outside hire, that feeling of, you know what, screw that guy. He left us. It fades away, and it fades away pretty quickly, and you start to understand why people make these decisions and why people make these choices. Like, you do, and it happens in real time. And as a player, like, you get it. Like, you get it. And this is coming from, like, it wasn't millions upon millions of dollars pulling guys away, right? Like, it was for Jonathan Smith, and it wasn't for a conference that instability in a conference that's going to survive. Like, I get that, but Trent Bray wants to be there. And I think this is why the safe hire is the right hire right now for Oregon State, is because Trent Bray is that culture that has been successful. He's been a part of building that identity that Jonathan Smith preached. And now he, as Jonathan Smith and all of the other assistants leave, you know, as he's taken, you know, his offensive coordinator, his tight ends coach, his running backs coach, his offensive line coach, and that's going to be a big one to hire. Okay, and the DB's coach and Blue Adams is gone too. Like, he takes 5 coaches with him. Like, you have a guy in Trent Bray who believes in Oregon State because he was a player there and he was a coach, and then he came back, right? I think that is important in holding the core. And in the next coming weeks, like we've talked about Monday being a big day when the portal opens, we got an early signing period too. And it's full tilt boogie go. You've got to start, 1, holding on to your recruits, 2, getting new recruits in that you can and sealing the deal on a couple. But the biggest thing is you've got to replace those 5 assistant coaches in a hurry. And look, there are a lot of really good options. And I'm not saying this like half-heartedly. When you look at guys that have either been a part of the Oregon State program before that are in other places, whether that's Ryan Gunderson, who's down at UCLA with Chip Kelly, Kevin Cummings, a former wide receiver who's down at Arizona, or you go and you dip into like some of the Big Sky coaches. Big Sky is the SEC of the FCS. Yeah. Like, it is really damn good football that they have there, and they have really bright offensive minds right now.
Pulled Troy Taylor out of there to coach Stanford.
That's right, as the head coach.
Yeah, so like there's no shortage of talent out there. It's a training ground. It's a lot like when people that are kind of unfamiliar with the North Dakota states of the world, the Montanas, like, oh yeah, I know they do some fun stuff down there. It's like that's where you go sharpen your teeth.
Yep.
You're Sean Lewis, who just took the job at San Diego after leaving Colorado.
Yeah, he's at San Diego State.
He was cutting his teeth at Toledo, which is kind of the same thing in the FBS that is the FCS. Of like, yeah, you go down there and you're in a place where you get to go wild, or you go to a smaller school like a UTSA and cut your teeth there, or a North Texas. And like, just because you're not coming from this blue blood program, honestly, when you don't have all the eyes on you, you can get a little weird. You can get creative, and you can develop your own system. Hell, Chip Kelly developed it. Freaking Delaware.
No, New Hampshire.
Or New Hampshire. I'm sorry. I always get those two mixed up. But is New Hampshire this powerhouse? No. So, like, it's not like this death blow.
They were in the FCS, though.
But, again, it's not this death blow of, like, going to little smaller schools or in the FCS to go get guys. In fact, if you're very targeted with your recruiting, you can go get guys that are very impactful. And this is what matters, at a lower price point.
Well, and that's where the assistant coach pool of money is going to be very important for Trent Bray, and hopefully they can get a big boost to that, even from the $4.75 million, which was an increase this past year. If they can increase that a little bit more, you go and one of the guys that I was talking to, and Bar 2 said it's okay to throw this name out there because he should be a hot commodity on the market, is Christian Taylor, who is the offensive coordinator at the University of San Diego, where they have one of the most explosive offenses in the country. And this is where you look at a guy and you say, all right, okay, will it work at Oregon State doing less with more, right? Because look, and that's not a knock on Oregon State because the cupboard isn't bare.
No.
But you don't have the top tier talent. I don't know how many people know this about University of San Diego football. It's a non-scholarship football program. Jim Harbaugh was the head coach there, and he recruited Josh Johnson to be there. That he returned to kickoff against us and then was the starting quarterback. I was like, hey, whoa.
Oh, no, he's fast.
Yeah. And then he just started a playoff game this past year for this 49ers.
Mm.
But their offense is absolutely incredible at San Diego. So you go and you get maybe a guy like him. You go and you dip into these FCS ranks. You build that staff, and it can be explosive. And guess what? Those guys all have inroads on the West Coast where you're going to have to recruit. Also, take a look at some of the other programs. You mentioned San Diego State, where Sean Lewis just takes over. Brady Hoke built a really good staff there. Those guys are looking for jobs. Boise State and Andy Avalos, right? He just got canned. There's going to be coaches looking for opportunities. Those are staffs that are not bad coaching staffs. They really aren't. They are not bad staffs that they have there. It is, can you build that staff effectively and efficiently
Within
while
the
recruiting
yeah.
your roster and high school kids as well? Because that's
They got a lot
that's
to
the
do.
hard part about this. And that's why, coaches leave right now. And it's also why it is imperative that Oregon State was quick to make this hire. And they did it, man. They did it very, very fast.
Look,
in
and you saw
short
Scott
order.
Barnes introducing Trent Bray, and you could see the reaction in the room.
Yeah.
They needed it.
Yeah.
They needed it. There was a sense of relief, and all right, our guy. It wasn't a new guy that you have to understand or get to know because it's Bray and because they have that relationship already. I think it was the right move for where they are right now. Now, it may not be the right move 2 or 3 years from now. We don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, I think Brave's the right guy.
All right. Good hire. Good hire right now. On the surface, seems like the good one. And Trent Bray's going to be, he has his work cut out for him, But the good news is if you can keep the core, you're going to be in a far better spot. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. We have the college football playoff penultimate rankings were released last night. We're going to have what Boo Corrigan, the chair of the college football playoff, what he had to say a little bit later in the show. But coming up next, a little bit of I don't know if this is a bombshell of a report, but the Cougs could be getting raided. That after Rust with SportsCenter.
This is Pac-12 Championship Week with Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, Georgia remains the #1 team in the latest college football playoff rankings. Each of the next 4 schools moved up 1 spot. Michigan #2, Washington #3, Florida State at 4, and Oregon at #5. The Pac-12 championship game between those #3 Huskies and #5 Ducks coming up Friday with a playoff berth likely on the line. Live coverage here on The Fan starts at 1 o'clock with Ducks game day and then a 5 o'clock kick on ABC. Jets head coach Robert Saleh says the team is opening the 21-day practice window for Aaron Rodgers as he recovers from a torn Achilles suffered just 79 days ago. Rodgers said yesterday he's not yet healthy enough to play. ESPN reporting Texans offensive lineman Titus Howard needs knee surgery and will miss the rest of the season. The 29 first-rounder also missed the first 4 games of this year with a broken hand. Broncos safety Kareem Jackson meeting with Commissioner Roger Goodell today to get more clarity on his latest suspension. Jackson has missed 3 games due to suspension already this season. He'll miss 3 more. He was ejected from 2 others and has been fined nearly $90,000 for 4 illegal hits. And on the hard court, Pelicans guard C.J. McCollum expected to make his return tonight against the 76ers. He's been out since November 4th with a collapsed lung. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Every day, get the NFL headlines delivered straight to you. Follow the Best Football Show with Brian Baldinger on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
During the Jeep Black Friday sales event, get 15% below MSRP, plus no monthly payments for 90 days when financed on 2023 Jeep Gladiator and most 2023 Grand Cherokee and Grand Cherokee L gas-powered models. Excludes Grand Cherokee Laredo 4x2 and Grand Cherokee L Laredo models. Not compatible with lease offers or with any other consumer incentive offers. Financing and deferred monthly payments for well-qualified buyers through Chrysler Capital. Not all buyers will qualify. Interest accrues from date of purchase. Residency restrictions apply. Take retail delivery from dealer stock by 11/30. Jeep is a registered trademark.
Cyber Golden Gable deals are here at Lowe's. Deck your home with a holiday living 4-piece decor set that includes a wreath, garland, and 2 potted trees. A $149 value for just $59. And don't forget to upgrade your bathroom with up to 50% off select vanities, faucets, and shower heads. Hurry, these cyber savings won't last because Lowe's knows deals. Valid through 11/29 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Experience the ultimate venue for football fans at A&A. Enjoy the lights, sound, and splendor of the region's largest video wall and indulge in game day bites at the Stadium Sports Bar and Grill, or up the excitement at A&A Sportsbook, where you can wager on your favorite college and professional teams. From parlays to teasers, money lines, and props, A&A Sportsbook has the widest selection of bets and screens to enhance your fandom. A&A sounds like fun. A&A is committed to responsible gambling. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call the Washington State Gambling Helpline, 800-547-6133.
Ready to feel beyond better? ZoomCare puts you in control of your health, giving you the urgent, primary, and specialty care you need. When, where, and how you want it. With same-day visits that start on time, evening and weekend hours, and labs and meds on site. We make getting care fast and easy. Whether virtually or in person, ZoomCare is here to help you feel better from check-in to check-up to check-out. Now that's beyond better. Schedule a visit today at ZoomCare.com.
So what's your favorite thing about the holidays?
Well, it just feels like there's magic in the air.
Holiday magic is definitely in the air at Fred Meyer Jewelers. And we're putting a bow on our 50th anniversary celebration with amazing values as our gift to you. From gorgeous gemstone rings to dazzling diamonds, classic necklaces, and so much more, you'll find beautiful gift ideas to fit every budget. And our expert associates are here to help you choose the perfect expression of your love. So celebrate 50 years of gift giving with Fred Meyer Jewelers.
I'm Tony Kornheiser, and this is my show. My friends come on and you know them. We talk about the sports you care about, football, and now basketball too, though we don't really pay attention.
He had quite the little bombshell yesterday. He said that Cougs quarterback Cam Ward has up to 10 $1 million offers to hit the transfer portal for the second time. The Incarnate Word quarterback who has been nothing short of amazing in his time at Washington State as well. I know that they've had their ups and downs this season, a big stretch where they were down. He has been really good, though, and you can see he has that flash where he's got that it factor, and he has up to $10 million offers, according to Brock Heward. In that report, some of the schools that have reached out to him because he is eligible for a second transfer because of the fact that he is a graduate transfer now. So he was
a smart man.
1-year transfer. Yeah, he's got that degree. And so now he can go on Oregon, Washington, Notre Dame, Texas A&M and Auburn are reportedly the schools that have reached out to Cam Ward to see if he's interested in leaving the Cougs and heading for greener pastures, I guess, in a more stable conference moving forward. That's crazy to me that there's 10 offers over $1 million already.
I don't think it's really all that surprising considering the value of quarterback play right now and the business of quarterback play. You're seeing it kind of play out real quick. I should have pulled this up already. Taking a look at where, if you take a look at like just statistically, quarterbacks in college football this year. Okay, let's go down the list. Bo Nix, transfer.
Yep.
Penix, transfer. Daniels, transfer. Ward, transfer. Williams, transfer.
No, really.
I mean, it is what it is. And you take a look at things right now. Cam Ward is probably the best quarterback in the transfer portal. Probably going to be. Maybe.
I mean, if he's in there, if he's in there, and I don't like. Here's the thing about it is we don't know who else is going to jump in there, right? We have 3 Michigan State guys. We got 2 from Texas A&M, and I think one of them was their starter from a year ago, who's just a sophomore, and had a really high ceiling because he was part of those really good Jimbo Fisher recruiting classes.
Do you think?
I don't know who else hops in there though. Like we
you
could.
Will Howard. You got Coastal Carolina's kid today just did Grayson McCall.
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
Well, he's still around.
That's actually perfect. You bring up Coastal Carolina. What if you go into like the bottom or the next group, like the 10 to 15, 10 to 20 quarterbacks of the country in passing yards? You get a quarterback from Georgia Southern, from James Madison, from North Texas, from Western Kentucky, from Texas State. What is happening and what I expect to happen going forward is that smaller schools are going to be feeder schools.
Absolutely.
For quarterbacks going
Absolutely.
forward. Quarterbacks are going to go to smaller schools to get opportunities, and then the bigger schools are going to go down there and pluck them. Oregon, USC, Washington, all have upperclassmen quarterbacks who are going to the NFL. And instead of trying to develop they'll try to continue to develop in-house, but you'll look to replace guys so that you can stay up top so you don't get in this cycle of what you kind of saw at the start of the season with Georgia and Ohio State, where you get a newer quarterback and you're like,
I mean, that is also such a slippery slope because you don't know how they're going to fit specifically into your system and when they get there, right? Because you could have guys that maybe the system and the competition his system was so good and the competition maybe wasn't that great and numbers can get inflated. I mean, and you just fall in love with the guy, right? It becomes then your talent evaluation and leaning on that.
Yeah.
There isn't a coach in the country that's going to be like, yeah, this is the way we want to go, is pluck these guys out.
Because you don't want a mercenary at every freaking year.
Developing your own talent in your own system is of the utmost importance. And it is so important to your program to be able to do that because also there's continuity with your receivers. There's understanding and mastery of the system that you are running as well. That's really hard to do because you're learning a new language, right? We said this when Josh Dobbs went from Arizona to Minnesota, and he's like, it's like studying for French or taking French for years and then taking a Spanish test. Like it's really hard. Are there some things that are similar? Sure. But a lot of it is different, and you're going to lose a lot of the context along the way. You can't just go out and expect that your transfer quarterback is going to fit you immediately, right? And if you look at all of these guys, everybody that we named, right? Bo Nix, he goes from Auburn to Oregon, where Kenny Dillingham was that buffer, right?
There's a line somewhere.
When they brought Will Stein in, it was, we are keeping a lot of our verbiage the same because we have this window to win, and you got to kind of tailor what you do. And I thought Lanning did a phenomenal job of finding Will Stein, who conceptually is very similar to Kenny Dillingham, so it wasn't that hard of a transition. Cam Ward followed his offensive coordinator from Incarnate Word up to Washington State. He leaves, and what do? They lean even more into an air raid style when they bring Ben Arbuckle in. Caleb Williams, he went with his head coach from one school
Same
to
with
another.
Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix.
Exactly. Like all of these guys, there's a connection that you're looking at to system familiarity and fit. And that's what makes it so hard when you go into the portal is, all right, if you don't have all of those things, like literally every single one of those guys who've been wildly successful started with that coordinator when they were in college. And so no wonder they're having such great success, because it isn't just ready mix instant right away and this guy's going to be successful. A lot of times there are some growing pains. Now, DJ going from Clemson to Oregon State, we saw there still is a little bit of a curve because he's asked to do something completely different.
And he's the only quarterback who transferred in the class of 2023 who was in the top 20 of total QBR.
And he's been outstanding. He has been outstanding, and he was a massive upgrade from what they had before.
Yeah, and if you go back, I mean, literally all 3 Heisman finalists are 22 transfers.
Yeah.
And Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix.
Yep.
This is the new reality. Get used to it. Your school needs to protect their quarterback, and they need to go out and get quarterbacks. This is how this is going to work. The interesting thing is going to be for those perennial top 20 teams, you're going to get your Bo Nixes. You're going to get your Penixes. You're going to get your Caleb Williamses.
Yep.
You're gonna recruit them, develop them in-house, or get them mid-career transfer.
Yeah.
In those guys' case, but you're going to have those lines drawn. What's going to be interesting is what happens after them.
Yeah.
That's what's going to and that's not just for those schools, but across the country. You're seeing it in Alabama. Like, we kind of believe in Jalen Milroe.
Yep.
Like, after having a string of great quarterbacks, but even then, you saw Jalen Hurts a couple years ago leave Alabama and go to Oklahoma. Like, it is a arms race that is going to happen every year, and this is going to be free agency every single year.
Yeah, good point on the Vancouver Ford text line, too. It says, I know it's a different time, but Helfrich eventually got burned by this quarterback strategy at Oregon, right? Where they went from Marcus to Vernon, and then Dakota Prukop. Did not work. Like, it didn't work, and you were getting a guy from Montana State that, hey, he had all the hype around him, and it didn't work out for him. So, I mean, it is slippery slope, but you're right. Like, I'm surprised that 10 schools with vastly different systems were all like, yeah, this is what we want. Because an air raid style quarterback does not work everywhere.
And you can't put him under center everywhere.
Miami was one of the schools that was reportedly,
and
it's like that Mario Cristobal's system does not work.
No.
Cam Ward and Mario Cristobal,
that's oil and water.
He's a really good quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think in that system it would be great for him.
I mean, Van Dyke is leaving Miami. Like, who I think is a quarterback who's more a Miami style or more Cristobal style quarterback. Yeah. And
All right. Let's right some wrongs next on The Fan. or is the portal the same as announcing they want to be traded essentially? A little bit of both.
Yeah, because you can go in the portal and your coach will be like, see you later.
Yeah, when you go into the portal, you're essentially forfeiting your scholarship at
Yes.
your university and saying, all right, bye, I'm out. You can come back and choose to remove your name from the portal, but then you have to make sure you're in the good graces of your coaching staff and want to they want to bring you back.
You got to be
so
good
that's
enough.
the hard
Basically,
part.
you got to be good enough.
And he is good enough, but it's really hard though for your teammates to go through that, you know. And the interesting thing, do you see what Kenny Dillingham did today in Portal News? This is going to be the new wave of young coaches and how they handle it. So many of the old curmudgeons are, you enter the portal, you're dead to me. I hate you. There is a player, James Jonchem from Arizona State, that had a Twitter post that said, I'd like to thank Arizona State and all my coaches and teammates. He's entering the transfer portal, though, for his final year of eligibility. Dillingham quote tweeted him and said, good luck. This is a great, hardworking guy right here. A guy who's like...
Gave me the endorsement.
And there is like an element of, look, there can be great, hardworking guys that you're just like, dude, you're not good enough to play in our system because our expectations are better, right? And you have that. But to see a head coach do that, you're kind of taken back like, well, that's a little weird.
It can be win-win.
Yeah, it can be win-win. So the portal's a weird place. It's a place I wouldn't want to be. I don't want to be in the portal.
God, no.
Yeah. You don't want to be in
Everything
the portal.
about it sounds terrible.
Because you could get left there.
Yeah. And there are numbers on that. My God, if you're a defensive back, do not go in the portal unless you know you got someplace to land.
Exactly.
They made up like something like 60% of all transfers, transfer portal entrants that didn't get picked up.
Yeah. Well, you got to have a short memory to be a defensive back, but people don't forget.
Goldfish.
Yep. All right. Hey, let's get to our guest for hour number 2. We started off. Kyle Bondagura covers the Pac-12 for ESPN. The final Pac-12 championship game will have a little bit of history on the line. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. May have a Pac-2 championship game next year.
Hey.
We got the Pac-12 championship game between the Ducks and the Dogs coming up Friday, right here on The Fan from Las Vegas, Nevada. And to talk about it, we bring on Kyle Bonagura from ESPN. Kyle, thanks for taking a few minutes, man. How you doing?
No problem. I'm doing good. Looking forward to, like everyone else, looking forward to Friday.
You know, we had yesterday the penultimate college football playoff rankings come out, and it does appear that the Pac-12 is primed for a win-and-you're-in situation. What is your feeling on kind of the chaos that could ensue and how it may change what happens come Friday night in Las Vegas?
Yeah, no, I think it's obviously the best position that the Pac-12 has been in going into its conference championship game since the playoff expanded to 4 teams, right? Or I guess was created at 4 teams, right? Washington obviously undefeated, winning their in, and Oregon as the top-ranked one-loss team. You would figure they're as close to a win-and-you're-in situation as well. I guess the one complicating factor is the Texas-Alabama thing, right? And if Alabama beats Georgia, okay, like you would expect Alabama then to receive significant consideration at 12-1 as the SEC champion, ending Georgia's 2-year winning streak. That kind of makes sense, right? And then you have potentially Texas sitting there also at 12-1 with the win on the road against Alabama. And how do you reconcile that, right? I think I'm a very firm believer that head-to-head should matter in a tie-breaking situation. So, like, Texas for me should be ahead of Alabama if they both win, and then things can get dicey for the Ducks if it plays out like that, right? Because then you have 3 one-loss teams for 2 spots. Like, this is assuming Florida State and Michigan both win. And so that's the one scenario that I would be a little bit concerned about for Oregon. I still think there's even if it breaks that way, there's still a good chance they get put in. But any other kind of any other way you break it down, right, with all the possibilities, I think they're in easily. That would just be the one situation to guard against.
Kyle, help my little dumb brain.
He needs a lot of help, Kyle.
When so much is talked about resume, and you just said head-to-head matters so much, if Oregon beats Washington, and it's a close game, and the justification is that Oregon's only loss in the season is a loss to Washington, and Washington then has the argument, well, our only loss in the season is to Oregon. With that same discussion, how do the other teams, essentially, Washington's only losses to the number 5 team in the country, and Oregon's only losses to the number 3 team in the country. How do the other teams, the Texases, the Alabamas, the Florida States, the other teams that are competing for those spots, have a better argument or justification to get into that spot and have it not be a situation where the Pac-12 would get 2 teams, which I know is insane, but just is going by their own discussions and their own arguments and what they've tried to prop up? How does that justification come through?
Yeah, so it's very circular, right? Because if you make the case for Oregon, then you can make a similar argument for Texas over Alabama. Then you can say, well, Texas beat Georgia. So there's a case here where there's not a way to do this seamlessly, right? There's always going to be to any argument that you make with that kind of scenario that I laid out, right? You could certainly make the case, and look, Washington went through a tough conference, and they're getting punished because the Pac-12 changed its rules and went away from divisions and had to beat a team twice, which everyone knows is difficult to do, especially a team like Oregon playing as well as it has, right? Then you have Ohio State that's saying, hey, we won 11-1 too, but we didn't get a chance to avenge our 3-point loss to the undefeated team in a conference title game too. So they're sitting there saying, we have a case, right? And even if Georgia or Michigan lose, they're saying, hey, like, we went undefeated during the season and our loss just came at the wrong time. So this for me goes back to, like, it's a terrible system.
Yes, thank you.
That's the only conclusion you could really make, right? Because, like, depending on your perspective, right, you can easily make the case for any of these teams and feel good about it, right? Depending on where you're coming from, there's a lot of ways to make your case. And the reality here is that a 4-team playoff for a division of football that has 130 teams just never has never made sense, and it's never been a true playoff. And it's always been a money grab, a +1 to the amount of games that were played in previous years. So for me, like that's the problem here, is that there's not a clean way to do this, and it gets much better at 12, right? You have anyone who's left outside of a 12-team field is going to feel less aggrieved, right? Because the justification for them being a serious threat to win the whole thing, isn't really there. Yeah. But in this current system, you're not going to have a perfect way to break it down. And so, like Oregon for me, like over the second half of the year, like clearly they've been better than Washington, right? And if the committee thinks that they're better than Texas right now, which they have said that they do, the idea then Oregon then could go beat undefeated Washington, and then Texas could beat an Oklahoma State team who's not as good, and then the committee then decide Texas all of a sudden is jumps Oregon. With that being the case, like that doesn't make any sense. There's no logic there. But then if you start looking at it from a different perspective, right? Should they be in the head over Alabama? Like, sure, the head-to-head should matter. And then so it's just a mess.
Yeah, and it's weird to think that if Auburn brings 4 instead of just rushing 3, maybe this on 4th down and 31, maybe it's a little bit different in the Iron Bowl. We're talking with Kyle Bonagura of ESPN. All right, let's talk about this rematch, Oregon and Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. You said it. Oregon has just kind of been dismantling teams as they've gone on since that loss to UW. UW, on the other hand, has been playing these close games, and I've been saying this all along. Like, I don't care how close the games are, win them, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Something does not look right with Michael Penix, though. They could say it's sickness. It was overwhelmed by emotion after the Apple Cup. What is your sense on whether it's the health or just the status of Michael Penix, who has not looked as impressive in pushing the ball down the field since he got touched up in that Oregon game?
Yeah, I mean, what really stood out with Penix at the start of this year and really most of last season was that his accuracy was just there. Downfield, they can just rely on him to put the ball where it needed to be. And that resulted in a lot of, yards after the catch and big plays and really an explosive offense. And we just haven't seen that. He's missing on throws that you're like, wow, like that's a pretty, standard throw that any quarterback at this level should have no problem making. And he's missing a lot of those. So yeah, it's concerning for Washington for sure that his level has dropped. And we're all speculating on why that could be. I don't have a good reason for it. I mean, nothing looks physically wrong with him. It doesn't seem like he's limping or he's having trouble getting through his motion, right? Like there's nothing obvious there. And there's the colds and the sicknesses stuff. But that shouldn't have a kind of a weeks long impact on a player of his caliber. So it's been confusing. And they certainly haven't looked as good as since beating Oregon and to the games to that point. But again, like this is a team that's won 19 games in a row. This is, Kalen DeBoer is 23-2 as a head coach at Washington. So, I think you're kind of, when a team is so good for so long, you tend to try to dig deeper and overly scrutinize teams like that, right? But at the end of the day, this is a team that has won a lot of games in a row, and as unimpressive as many of them have been, they're still winning games, right? And so they deserve a lot of credit for that. And so it's hard to handicap this one, right? Washington beat Oregon. It was a close game, but I think on the same field they looked really even. And again, it's I think you can kind of throw out the last several games, when you head into a conference title game, because I think all that matters is both teams will be there, and I'm having trouble trying to set any sort of realistic expectations of what's gonna take place.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to ask you, Kyle. What are your expectations for this game? Because of what you just said. Because so much is on the line. Penix and Nix are both Heisman candidates. Obviously Nix looks like he's the front runner right now, but they're both playing stylistically very different than when they played each other weeks ago. The Huskies are running the ball more efficiently. It appears the Ducks, with Bucky Irving banged up a little bit, are leaning a bit more on Bo Nix, and you're just kind of getting a little bit more balance out of the Huskies from what they had previously going into the season. What do you kind of look at as far as the touch points in this game, even if you are having trouble setting your expectations?
Yeah, so you can envision this playing out in a number of ways, right? But I think what stands out right now is that Oregon's just been the more complete team recently. And we talked about Penix struggling a little bit. And so like those things kind of like make, and you see the betting line is heavily in favor of Oregon at this point. So like, depending on the time of day, I kind of waver on this, but I do think it comes down to those two players, right? I mean, both of them Nix is clearly ahead of Penix in the Heisman discussion right now, right? That's deserved, that's earned, and all of that. But if Michael Penix goes out and throws for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, and the Huskies win by a couple scores, like that's the lasting image. And then he'll have beaten Nix head-to-head twice, and Washington will have the 2 wins and be undefeated. Like maybe that's enough to flip the Heisman script. But I think the way Oregon's playing, that's unlikely, right? And I think for me, it feels like a game that comes down to turnovers. Whoever takes care of the ball is probably going to be in a good spot. And that's kind of a cop-out answer, but it's just that's how close I do think this game will be.
We talked to a lot of people that cover one team specifically, or they cover a state, but you've had the opportunity to cover every team in this conference, and you have done a fantastic job of it. How does it feel to have the college football portion of the Pac-12 end with the first top 5 matchup since 1976 in conference play? I mean, it's a weird way that this is all going out, where there's the opportunity for 2 teams to go to the playoff. There's a legitimate chance winner is in for the college football playoff in a conference that's been much maligned over its existence because it hasn't been top to bottom such a great conference. But here we are, the final season. It kind of seems like this is where the Pac-12 has been at its best.
Yeah, it's like in lieu of a funeral, we're going to have one of the biggest games in conference history to send it off, right? It's a sad way to end it because college football is such a cyclical sport. I mean, I think everyone knew that, and the 14 playoff didn't do the Pac-12 any favors, right? Because it just didn't have that team at the top. I mean, it was a good conference the whole time. It was usually probably year to year the third best conference. It just didn't have a top 4 team. And so from a national narrative standpoint, the conference took a hit because when it didn't have teams that were in the playoff mix deep in the year, like it's just the way the college football conversation sets up is for the conference or the teams that aren't part of that conversation to get left behind. And I think that there was a trickle down effect on interest in the conference, television ratings, those sort of things that had this like snowball effect on the direction of the conference. Had the 14 playoff come around in 2001, right as USC was getting rolling, and the Pac-12 had a chance to be nationally relevant for a decade straight, kind of like how Clemson buoyed the ACC for so long, despite the ACC being really bad for most of those years other than the one team. Like it would have played out significantly differently. And as much of the Pac-12 is a victim of like terrible leadership and poor foresight and arrogance and greed and all of those like obvious things, it's also, a victim of timing in that regard too. And so it's really sad, for me, like I've covered the conference for a long time now, but like even personally grew up, college football or, the Pac-10 shaped my college football experience. I went to Washington State, like when I was deciding where to go to school, I only wanted to go to a Pac-10 school to study journalism. So like, there's a lot of, and I'm not unique like that, right? There's a lot of people on the West Coast who have their whole experience with college football is centered on this conference. And it's a reliable part of everyone's lives for several years. So for it to go away in the fashion that it has, it's sad, right? And, we'll all move on and everyone will watch. The teams aren't going anywhere. They're just, playing against different opponents. So excited for the game on Friday, but it's also, obviously bittersweet that it's, we knew this was always possible for a year like this, and for it to happen in the last year is it's a little bit of a poetic justice there.
Kyle Bonagura, ESPN. We always appreciate the time, man, and we'll see you down in Vegas on Friday night.
Sounds good. See you guys.
There he is, Kyle Bonagura. Not just ESPN writer, but he played with and against the great Ryan Buckley in Little League Baseball.
There you go.
Down in the greater Bay Area. Yeah.
The rivalry that never dies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Also a Coug.
A Coug. Yeah. And we know Cougs never die.
There you go.
They're legends. They're legends, those Washington
They
State
do drink,
Cougars.
though.
Oh, hell yeah, they do. All right, we kind of got into it there. The college football playoff rankings, they did come out.
Mhm.
This game has got a whole heck of a lot that is riding on it.
I'd say it's the most important game.
Of the conference championship
Yes, I think
games.
this is the one
Yeah.
that can snowball and domino the most.
It's got some big weight behind it. Let's talk about it next. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. spot to second, Washington up to third, Florida State up to fourth, Oregon holding steady, leading the one-loss teams with their number 5 overall ranking. Ohio State is right behind them at 6th, though, and this is something that the committee has always told us, is that they do value conference championships and winning your conference. It does matter. And I think where there's a lot of buzz because there's a lot of best and worst case scenarios that you can go over, but conference championships, they do matter and they have mattered to the playoff committee. If all things are equal, right? We've had years where, I mean, we just saw it just last year, 2 teams get in from one conference, right? And that happens quite often. But at the same time, I think what we're looking at here is we have got we have 6 conferences, or at least the Power 5 conferences, all have got a very realistic discussion and argument. Their champion deserves to be there.
A pathway to being in the final.
The SEC, obviously, and the SEC champion, no matter who it is, will get one in, right? We know that. The Big Ten, well, Michigan will absolutely dismantle Iowa, and they're going to get in.
Let's go insane for a split second.
Yeah.
Let's say Iowa beats Michigan. What happens?
If Iowa beats Michigan, then you can have that. I mean, Iowa's not getting in.
No. They're not
getting in.
Is Michigan or Ohio State getting in?
It depends on how everything else breaks, but no, I don't think so. I mean, I honestly, I don't, because if Iowa beats Michigan, okay, and then you had Georgia win, Washington win, and Florida State win, right? Okay, so you've got those 3 teams are all in because they're undefeated and they're in. I don't think Michigan gets in because of the fact that
you lost your
conference title game. If Texas wins, then they're in. I mean, because they'd have earned that right? Because they would have beat Alabama by double digits on the road. Their resume would say it, and you would have a Ohio State team not playing and an Oregon team that isn't in it, and they're on the outside looking in, right? But I mean, they have that double-digit win on the road against Alabama, and I could see it. It's not.
It's very unlikely, but I'm just thinking of all the things that could throw a wrench in.
I mean, Georgia would be in, Washington in, Florida State in. I mean, Texas would be a conference champion, and Michigan wouldn't be.
If you're rooting for chaos, Oklahoma State, Iowa, Alabama. I don't know if Oregon, Louisville.
No. The most chaos would be Florida State does win, and you have to put that team in. I think the most chaotic scenario isn't that far out of the realm of possibility.
No, I think there's Alabama beating Georgia is not. I think something insane at all.
The worst for the playoff committee and what they've told us and how they've jockeyed all these teams around. Oregon winning. Georgia losing to Alabama, Michigan winning, Florida State winning, Texas winning, and just absolutely blowing out Oklahoma State.
Coach of the year, Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State.
That would just be like you're sitting there like, all right,
now what?
Who's in now? Who's in now?
And now they got to show their bias.
Yep.
Are they going to keep 2 SEC teams out? In that scenario, they're going to keep Georgia, or are they going to keep Alabama out if they just won their conference title game?
No.
But are they going to keep Georgia out?
No. Like, here's the thing. Georgia losing to Alabama brings the most chaotic situation because if you put Alabama in just because they're the SEC champion, and by the way, they would have gone unbeaten in SEC play, won the conference title, ended Georgia's streak, then you also have to put Texas in because Texas beat them.
Alabama.
They beat them. Okay. And then you go, hey, Georgia, we've been touting how good you are for 2 years. You guys haven't lost since 2021 season.
Oh, you're out now?
Now you're out. Yeah. And you're the 2-time defending national champion. You're out. But there it is. If you don't win your conference, you leave it up to the football gods, right? But if you add a Michigan loss in there, then is Ohio State in play to jump up? Like that is...
It could get super weird super quick, man.
And this is why if you are Oregon fan, hell, if you're a Pac-12 fan, like Washington, you win, you're in. You win, you're in. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. But if you are a Pac-12 fan, you want chalk. You want that chalk. You want Georgia to beat Alabama. You want Michigan to rout Iowa. You want Florida State to win because then it eliminates all the other one-loss teams, and you are the committee's been telling us all along.
The best one-loss team is Oregon. Blah, blah, blah.
And they have had that. That has been consistent throughout the rankings, is that the best one-loss team in the country has been Oregon, despite what their resume says, despite what their top 25 wins will tell you. But make no mistake about it, the committee, and I said this the week before the rankings came out. The top will sort itself out, but you'll figure out how the top will sort itself out by what the bottom of the rankings say. And you look at the bottom of the rankings, Clemson being ranked 23rd at 8-4.
They're propping somebody up.
Tennessee being ranked 21st. Like, you're just scratching your head. You're like, what are we doing here?
Because they're using them to prop other teams up.
Exactly. And I know I heard Joel Klatt on with Colin earlier today, and he's like, pretty suspicious. Utah's not on there. And look, Utah doesn't deserve to be in there.
No.
But they deserve it just as much as Clemson or Tennessee do. You know? Like, they've been really damn good.
Tennessee lose to Florida?
Tennessee, they did not. I think they beat Florida for the first time in a long time. Nope, they lost 29-16.
Run me again.
In the swamp.
Who did Utah beat?
Florida.
Okay.
And that's the whole the transitive properties things with. It's brutal, though. Like, Tennessee's losses, I don't know who they beat that is good.
Nobody.
Their wins are against Georgia, Austin Peay, South Carolina.
Not Georgia.
Or, what is it? Virginia, sorry.
Yeah.
Virginia, Austin Peay.
That's a big difference.
There is a big difference. Texas, San
Virginia.
Antonio, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Kentucky, UConn, and Vanderbilt. Their best win is Kentucky.
Yeah.
They lost double digits to Florida. They lost by double digits to Alabama. They lost by double digits to Missouri. And they almost lost by triple digits to Georgia. That's by 28 to Georgia. They lost by 28, 28, or excuse me, 29, 14, and 15 in their losses. Their losses haven't been close.
No.
And so this is what the committee does. We use them because at the end of the day, when they compare the resumes, they'll be able to float out there on Sunday. Well, as a one-loss team, they had wins over 4 top 25 teams in our eyes. And right now, that back end of the poll, it's set because none of those teams are playing.
Nope.
So why would they drop out?
No.
There's no reason for them to drop out.
So they've set what they're using as their footing already.
All of these teams are going to be ranked. It's just the reshuffling of the chairs on the Titanic as this 4-team playoff finally sinks to the bottom of the damn Atlantic.
Thank God.
We'll get 12 next year.
Get out of that.
I think best case scenario, though, for Oregon, though, if you're looking at it, your best case scenario is Georgia wins, Michigan wins, Florida State wins, Oregon wins, Texas loses. Okay, that's the best case scenario. I still think that if it's chalk, Oregon wins, you're in. I don't think they're going to jump Texas.
Well, because like Jeff Schwartz said, he says if you're ranked 5th and beat the 3rd-ranked team and still finish 5th, what's the point of any of it?
Yeah. And then your worst case is Georgia loses, Michigan wins, Florida State wins, Texas blows out Oklahoma State. Then you're in a world where is Ohio State in play? Texas is in play. If Bama's in, Texas is in play. And then all hell goes out the window.
To use Jeff Schwartz's logic, if you're 3rd and your only loss is to the 5th best team in the country, what's the point of all of it?
Yeah. But this is the world we live in.
Me and Jeff Schwartz on the same page right now.
Best case scenario for UW, if Oregon beats them, is
chaos.
Georgia wins, Michigan wins, Florida State loses, Texas loses, and it's a very close loss to Oregon. Like if it's a field goal game to Oregon, because that is like the only scenario where you have, hey, could the Pac-12 get 2 teams in? Could the Pac-12 get 2 in? 2 one-loss teams.
Just
2 one-loss teams. But that would be the ultimate chaos move. Because Louisville's not good.
No, they're not. They're not. You know what my ultimate chaos move is?
Huh?
Sports documentaries.
Ooh, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you know why?
Let's go.
Because somebody else always gets pissed off. We'll get to
Yeah.
that in our worst day on the web coming up. But first, here's a Big Kahuna Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
This is Pac-12 Championship Week with Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Man, that sucks!
It all seems to have started during COVID. The Last Dance comes out. Week by week, it rolls out. We all salute Michael Jordan's greatness. And Scottie Pippen gets a little bit more pissed off.
Yeah. Well, because he was number 2.
Sure. But what's been interesting about, and I would say poorly done, it was fun entertainment during COVID, certainly, because we had nothing. But the
Tiger
epic,
King would beg to differ.
Hells yeah.
The epic retelling of reality in sports documentaries is very interesting, where the subject is painted in the brightest and best possible lights, no matter what, and everything around him was secondary. And it's not just for Michael Jordan. It's been the case in every sports documentary that has come out since 2020. That's how these things work now. But an interesting one was last week, Barry Sanders' documentary, Bye Bye Barry, came out on Amazon. Have you watched it yet?
No.
I have not either. I need to add this to the list. Just because Barry Sanders is such a unique dude.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done what he did, being like deuces in the peak of their powers.
Walking away in your prime is a very tough thing, but like there's a lot of things that have gone into it that Barry's talked about over the years, which is knowing that you'll never win a championship and kind of seeing that. Seeing, 2 of your teammates have spinal injuries. He's talked about that at length.
Yeah.
That really resonated with him, being like, I don't know if it's worth it for me.
Yeah.
He's got the money. He's got the legacy. He did things that nobody else could do. So instead of hanging on too long and being the guy that is chasing rings, he said, I knew I only wanted to play in one place, so it was going to be Detroit. And that was it. Now, I applaud the guy for that, because how many guys do we see, Carmelone, ring chase and stay in far longer than they should? And you're like, this is sad at this point, because it doesn't always work out that way.
Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, it does. But he wasn't even like ring chase. He was on the Blazers. Like, what are you doing?
The Lakers.
But we see these guys go through this, and you're like, why? And for Barry Sanders to walk away when he did, it was always something that his legacy never took a hit. And I think a lot of other people's would have, because everybody looked at it and said it was Detroit's fault.
And it was also because he was so good.
He was.
We just haven't, even now, we've still not seen another player like him. Well, part of the reason that you talked about him walking away and not winning was because his quarterback was Scott Mitchell. And while Scott Mitchell wasn't really thrown under the bus during the documentary, according to all reports, he took special exception to it. He said, I just watched Bye Bye Barry on Amazon Prime. It was not a very pleasant experience. I was Barry Sanders' teammate for 5 years. I had a front row seat to some of the most amazing plays in NFL history. He will never have an equal as a pure runner in the NFL. I could argue there were several running backs that were more complete, but I won't. Barry was great. However, I'm so tired of hearing how I was the reason that Barry Sanders never won a Super Bowl. I'm so tired of hearing how I was not a good QB. My only response is, F you all. That includes Eminem and Jeff Daniels, who made appearances in the documentary as famous people from Detroit.
You should take this up with Wayne Fonts, who also said it in the documentary.
Yes,
like Wayne Fonts, he was like, if we would have had better quarterback play, we would have won a Super Bowl. Well, I mean, they're not wrong. Right?
Scott Mitchell was he was a very average quarterback.
Yeah, but they also had like Rodney Peete and Andre Ware. Like they had some quarterbacks you're just like, God. And so Scott Mitchell was like the better of the guys that they brought in.
But still, he was very average.
He was.
He was the Kirk Cousins of his time.
But it's also like, and I think one thing that Scott Mitchell.
You're not even going to give me the nothing, huh?
What?
Called him Kirk Cousins of his time. You didn't even blink.
No, I think that's insulting to Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
Well, what? I mean, Kirk Cousins is better. But Barry Sanders was not great in the playoffs either. Like everybody's like, if we would have had better quarterback play, we would have won more games. Well, I think you're just it's limited when you don't have a great quarterback. And I loved Herman Moore and Brett Perriman. They were great. I loved watching Herman Moore play, and that dude could hoop. If you never saw Herman Moore hoop, like Herman Moore was a baller.
I miss jock jams with Barry Sanders dunking.
But Barry only averaged 64 yards a game in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he only averaged per carry 4.2, which is really good. But for Barry Sanders, those numbers aren't nearly as eye-popping as what his career was, because every run was electric with Barry Sanders. Here's the problem, is that your quarterback wasn't great, but also your offensive line wasn't great either, because Barry's greatest runs
Or because his offensive line was horrendous.
Absolutely just breaking ankles left and right and then getting past the line of scrimmage and everybody's all out of position. Like, Barry was incredible. And when you add those two things together, then you go, all right, that's why the Lions. And they're the Lions.
They're the Lions. They're the Lions for a reason.
But Barry Sanders was so good. He was and it was in an era where your running back could carry you further than you can now. And I think one thing that we do get skewed is, like, people bring up Scott Mitchell's numbers now and they're like, yeah, it was not good at all. I mean, quarterback play wasn't at the highest of levels back then across the board. Like, we are very spoiled.
He had one good year.
We are very spoiled, though, with the completion percentage and yardage that these quarterbacks have now. Because, you know, like, was it Dave Craig was his backup too? I mean, look, I know you tried I think in the documentary, Wayne Fonts said that they went out and they tried to get several other quarterbacks, which also got Scott Mitchell all hot and bothered about it. It's like, well, every team tries to upgrade every position, Scott. You know this. You played in the NFL for 12 seasons or whatever it was.
And the thing is, so he had 1 year where he threw for 4,300 yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Great, very good year. The year before that, though, 10 tutties, 11 interceptions. Year after that, 17 tutties, 17 interceptions. Year after that, 19 tutties, 14 interceptions. So he had 1 year in there where he was good, where the rest he was not even replacement level. So, yeah, Scott, you are kind of to blame.
But what we're like, and this is the thing, is you got to go back and you've got to look at the different years. And so, like, what year was his best year? I mean, for that touchdown to interception ratio. Like, what year did you say that was?
The good one?
Yeah, his good one.
It's a 2.1% interception percentage.
No. What year was that?
Oh, what year? 95?
95?
When they went 10-6?
1995. I'll just pop that up right now. We'll go to 1995, and it's weird. Like, we get just blown away by some of the numbers here, where he was, what'd you say? He had 32 touchdowns in 95.
Yeah, 32 and 12.
Okay. He ranked 8th in the NFL in touchdown passes. Like, the
So
guys,
he had one good year.
the guys, but that's where it gets a little skewed, because guys weren't throwing for 40 touchdowns and 50 touchdowns on the regular like we see with
I'm saying that was like
Dan Marino.
legitimately a good year. The other years
that's
though,
really good.
the other years though he was bad. He was a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio.
That's never good.
No.
That's never good.
No.
Guys threw a lot more picks back then. Defense could get away with a whole heck of a lot
Yeah,
more
it's true.
contact downfield.
But also he was throwing for 1,500 yards, not 4,300. He had that 1 year where he threw for 4,300. The year before it was 1,500.
Brutal, dude.
14 games the next year he threw for 2,900. So it's like
Scott Mitchell.
Yeah.
I love that he's just sitting at home and, like every old person does, they just take
screw
to
you.
Facebook and are like, you know what? I'm going to get on Facebook and give people a piece of my mind.
Well, he completed his Facebook rant, and then again, this is where it came from. If it was a Facebook rant, I will believe until I die that we had that had we been given more time and patience with the offense, we had the talent, and we would have made a deep run in the playoffs and competed to win a Super Bowl.
See, how about that?
How
about
this? Is like high school quarterback tales, man. Come on, let it go, Scott. You think he's mad because he doesn't get to do stuff for the Lions anymore?
I just love that he called out Jeff Daniels and Eminem. Like, that makes the whole rant worth it. I don't think that goes viral if Scott Mitchell doesn't call out Harry Dunn and Eminem.
Do you think he's mad because they're bigger Detroit icons than he is? I would almost certainly guarantee it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure it bothers him.
He doesn't have that awareness to know that he's not bigger than Jeff Daniels or Eminem?
I mean, did you hear a word I said that came off that Facebook rant?
Yeah.
You think you could still throw that football over those mountains over there?
No.
No.
You couldn't do it back then either.
I say it's like well. What? I'll give you the dealer's choice here. You want something depressing or some interesting news?
What? That's a silly question. I do not want the depressing
Didn't we
news.
just do the depressing with Scott Mitchell?
No, okay.
Goodness gracious.
Okay.
Hey, let me bring you down.
We'll save that for later then. All right. Well, coming up next, the Dallas Mavericks are being sold out of nowhere. What the hell is going on, and what is Mark Cuban doing? Coming up next there, and Danny Dusty, 1080 The Fan. divesting.
Well, it sounds like he's doing I'm rich stuff, and I'm rich and I don't want any of this hassle anymore because I have enough money. He's always been a grinder.
Mm-hmm.
And he's selling his controlling interest in the Mavs to the Adelson family, which is Vegas money.
Casinos.
And they're like the power players in Las Vegas. Mavs moving to Vegas? What? No, that's a mean joke. But he is selling that, but still going to be running the basketball operations for the Mavs. And he's also stepping away from Shark Tank. He's no longer going to be a shark on Shark Tank. So this just screams to me more of like, instead of he's going to run for president, more of, I just want to be cool rich guy because that's what Mark Cuban is and not have as many of the stresses as he used to have. You know, he still gets to be his NBA governor because remember, they're not owners anymore.
No.
What?
He's not actually going to be the governor.
He's not.
So that is actually something that has come forth through this is that the Adelson family member, what is her name? For the love of God. Because it's two families, the Adelson family and the DeMont families. They own the Las Vegas Sands Casino.
They just sound rich.
Yeah, yes. I mean, the Adelsons, obviously the Sheldon Adelson.
Dumont.
That's the dumb money in Vegas. But part of it is that Cuban will stay on and have final say in basketball operations. But the families are targeting a closing of the transaction by the end of this year, 2023, subject to satisfactory customary closing conditions and approval by NBA Board of Governors. With that, the family and the named member is Miriam Adelson, a medical doctor and widow of former casino magnate. Sheldon Adelson will be the named governor.
Look at that.
So it's interesting. So there's a lot to take from this, particularly as you think about the Trailblazers and their process and unwinding of trusts and valuations. The Dallas Mavericks are being sold at a valuation of $3.5 billion, but that doesn't mean the team is being bought for $3.5 million because the group that is coming in is buying a majority stake. They are not buying the entire. It's not 100% of the team. So the reporting thought out there right now is that they have sold $2 billion of their stock in the casino world, but beyond that, how much more are they putting into it? Or are they just buying $2 billion worth of a $3.5 billion valuation, which would give them, on a $3.5 billion valuation, 57%, which is a controlling stake.
So Mark Cuban just got a couple $1 billion richer.
So he bought the team
285,
2000 for $285 million and sold it at least 57% of the team because we don't know what his total ownership share of the team was. Because here's the thing. This is what makes this new and interesting is that he's not leaving the team. He's still, again, going to have final say. He's going to share in the profits. So he's still, while not a majority stakeholder, this isn't a Justin Timberlake owning 1% of the Memphis Grizzlies situation. So he has real say in what's going on. But it's very interesting as far as what the NBA is allowing to take place here and what it could mean potentially for sale of Portland Trailblazers in the future.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do we... All right, so Trent Bray is actually going to go live here at his introductory press conference for the Oregon State Beavers. After this break, we'll come back and bring you live down to that press conference. Danny Dusty, 1080 The Fan. So it sounds like the Pac-12 is Pac-12ing pretty hard.
Yeah, with the audio
and one
feed.
final.
Hey, it is what it is, though.
You can plant your flag.
Can't win them all, can you?
No. In the meantime, we will get to that press conference as it gets underway. But we do have plenty of other things to talk about, including the NFL in one of the most wild injury recoveries we may have seen in modern sports history. I think the one that comes to my mind immediately is Adrian Peterson coming back off an ACL and then coming back to be the best running back in football after destroying his knees in, less than 6 months?
Yeah, well, we had also Cam Akers came back from an Achilles in 4 months, I think it was. It only took him to get back from an Achilles. The Achilles surgery it's a lot different than it was before.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it was a death sentence before.
I mean, you take a look around in the NBA in particular, where it's a bit more common than it has been in the NFL, I believe. It essentially ended 20 players' careers in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, Dominique Wilkins was never the same.
Elton Brand. You run down the list of guys who had the Achilles reach up, snatch their soul. That's just kind of how it's been. And I mean, obviously, here in Portland, we remember Wes Matthews, the recovery process he had to go through. Kevin Durant taking a full year to come back from his. I mean, so these are things that we've seen locally plenty. Aaron Rodgers is at 79 days right now, or 79 days removed, from his Achilles injury, and has entered the 21-day practice window ramp-up period.
Unbelievable.
That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, in Cam Akers, he ruptured his before the start of training camp, so July, and then he was back and on the active roster December 25th. So Aaron Rodgers tore his about a month after Cam Akers did, and that was back in 2021 when Akers did that when he was with the Rams. And then, coincidentally, his other Achilles went this year.
Unfortunately.
But what Aaron Rodgers is doing, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And we don't know the severity of what happened. We know it was an Achilles injury.
We saw his Achilles dancing his calf, so there's that.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as gnarly as some of the other ones, though.
Sure.
There was one this past weekend where it was you saw full ball just
roll up in the calf.
Yeah. It was so disgusting.
Yep, never great.
But it's a serious injury, and for Robert Saleh to take the podium today and talk about his quarterback being, entering that 21-day window. I mean, it's incredible to hear.
I know we're getting caught up in trying to create a narrative around it, but the true narrative is he's old school in the sense that he is driven. Is there motivation to be the first to ever do it? Sure, that's okay. That's his why. That's why it's better than a lot of it's a mentality that I think young guys should be able to grasp to, that he loves this organization. He wants to be with his teammates. He wants to be here. I think he's sacrificed so much already for the organization and himself and his teammates, and he's doing it again. I think it's a testament to who he is as a human. And yeah, obviously there's a little bit of that drive where he wants to prove that it can be done faster than anyone's ever done it before. That's okay. That's just part of his mental makeup. I think he still runs with a chip on his shoulder, and that's the way he lives his life, where he always wants to prove people wrong in terms of doubting them. And he's a special human, and I think his actions are showing and how much he appreciates, I think, this organization and everything around it.
I mean, the insanity of all this is that he's 39 in I think in a couple weeks. If I remember right, his birthday is December. 39 years old with a 17-year career now?
Yeah, I don't know how long he's been in the league. He's been in it forever.
16, 17 years?
Yeah.
And he's coming off arguably the most devastating injury in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to come back faster than basically anyone ever done it in professional sports?
It's wild.
I don't care if you're out there was it like a full tear? Was it just not as quite a bad? It's still an Achilles, and he's damn near 40.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, we don't know severity of it, but what he's doing is incredible. It's incredible. Even if it was like a partial tear or whatever their surgery was, him being able to come back this quickly, I think we all need to start investing in whatever crystals he's using to heal himself, because there's no doubt in my mind he's using healing crystals. It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He went on a darkness retreat, for God's sake.
So in 3 days, he'll be 40.
3 days.
December 2nd.
Damn.
Yeah.
And that he's going to celebrate his 40th birthday back at practice. Now, this doesn't mean he's like
coming back,
trending back.
yes.
It's a 21-day window for him to ramp up and reacclimate to football activities. And then at that point, they can say whether or not he is ready
He's
to
activated.
return to
Yes.
football. So this is still a long way for him to go to get back on the field.
The
But
Jets could continue to suck, and that Mendoza's all moot.
there's no look, if we're being honest, there's no reason for him to come back. They're 4-7 right now. I don't care what the playoff implications are for that team. They have the second worst record with tiebreakers in the AFC. I know it's been a logjam and a cluster, you know what, there, but they still have games against the Dolphins and the Browns. Look, and they have the Texans. I think their toughest 3 games are the Dolphins, Browns, and Texans. They have the Falcons this week. Then they have Houston, then Miami. They have the Commanders, Browns, and Patriots remaining. I mean, if they're in it for the final 3 games,
sure.
Maybe if you rifle off 3 straight here in this 21-day window, and you end up beating Miami, and then at the end of that 21-day window, you're like,
you're 500.
We're 7-7, and I don't know what the breaks are going to be either way, but you have the Commies, the Browns, and the Patriots at the end. Maybe. And does somebody have a sense of humor having the Commies, Browns, and Patriots as the final 3? You know, you got Commies, Poop, and America to end the Jets season.
You would call it the Patriots America.
Well, they're patriotism. Duh.
But let's face it, comparing those 3 teams is like the thing in The Office where they give it to Michael Scott and say, compare these 2 pictures, find the differences, and they're the same picture.
Right now. Well, Browns defense is really good.
It's very good.
So offensively, there's ineptitude all over the field.
Yes,
I don't think
to
that
levels
those
you can't believe. Even the Jets are impressed.
If those 3 teams combine their offenses, they won't make a playoff offense.
That isn't honestly between those 3 teams. You don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, Mac Jones and Sam Howell would be good enough to navigate a playoff game. I mean, Mac has done it. Sam Howell has shown those flashes, but you need to have really good offenses around them, and they wouldn't.
Could you make one offensive line out of those 3 teams?
Yeah.
Nobody from the Patriots.
No.
Is Batonio still on the Browns?
Yeah,
so
but I think he's hurt.
Yeah.
I'd say, you could make a good offensive line there.
Good? Passable?
No, good adjacent.
Good adjacent.
But you take all of the Browns' skill guys, though. You're taking Njoku. You're taking Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
You're taking Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
You're going to take from the Commanders, I think you got...
McLaurin.
Yeah, you've got to take
Terry.
McLaurin.
Yeah.
Scary Terry is going to be that guy that will be the one you want to take. Look, I'm a Patriots fan, and I'm telling you right now.
You're not taking a lineman or a skill position player.
No. Mac Jones is the starter for this team. You got Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson, and then maybe Curtis Samuel. You got double tights with Logan Thomas. Yeah, you're not taking much off New England's offense, though. They have one of the worst win rates on the offensive line and at wide receiver. That's not good, Bob. That's not good.
Yeesh. Look, I think Aaron's going to want to show that he made it back, be active,
God,
and then
that's just
not
dumb.
play.
What if he gets hurt again, though?
I think
he's just like, pop.
I think he's going to show that he's active.
Yeah,
that he's on the active roster, but he's the backup.
Hot dang.
And then they're like, well, we're going to see how this game goes and we'll
And it
ramp him
didn't
up.
go well.
And, we lost, so he's going to shut it down for the season. I expect, just so Aaron can prove a point.
Yeah, that sounds about right for him.
Again, I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves of what history has been.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So I think that's the way this is going to go. It does sound like the Oregon State press conference is underway, but I don't think we're going to have access to it. It doesn't look like the Pac-12 is carrying it, even though both the Pac-12 and Oregon State put the link up on the sites. So with that, we'll pivot and we will talk about the NBA's in-season tournament. And was it a success? Did Dusty give a damn? Danny Dusty, Danny the Fan.
Rust was over there, and it started late, and then we'll just get the hits from it because I think there is some really good stuff.
We'll sift through the goodness for you.
Yeah, nobody wants to listen to a full press conference.
No, because most of it is.
Yeah,
and that's not a
talk.
shot at Bray. That's just how these things go.
It's coach talk.
Yeah, we've done enough of these to know how these go. Speaking of how things go, first time around the NBA's in-season tournament, Dusty, successful or not?
It is entertaining basketball.
Successful or not?
Yes, it is. It is, because like the one thing is, will you get the players to care? And last night you had in multiple ways, like you had Josh Hart at the end of their game for the Knicks talking about how it was weird blowing a team out in the NBA and having to blow a team out because point differential was a tiebreaker. So they needed to lay it on the Hornets, and they won 115-91 to try to get into that quarterfinal spot.
Keep the gas.
You had the same thing going on with Boston and Chicago too, where
you had Joe Mazzulla literally go over to Billy Donovan and go, "Hey, bud, I'm not pulling my starters. I'm going to pour this on." And you can see Billy Donovan like, "Okay, I get it."
Yep, but there's going to be, like, in this messy part about that, there will be somebody eventually who gets injured on a team that is really good, like the Celtics are.
You got to weigh what's
important.
Yeah.
This year, the NBA's edict is you must care about this tournament this year.
Because we had to get somebody. We need a carrot.
Yep.
At the beginning of the season to get people to care.
And then we ended the night, though, with a hell of a basketball game that mattered between the Kings and the Warriors. And like that is exactly what the NBA wants, though, is they wanted to give people a reason to care and find a way for the players to care. And this year they have found it. And look, everybody that's watching this right now and that is raving about the in-season tournament, they're mostly the people that watch the NBA in November anyways.
Yeah, we're sickos.
But this is the slow build of it, because after this year, it'll be like, people next year will be like, hey, it was entertaining.
It was really good basketball.
Maybe missed out on some of it. I'm going to start watching more of it and paying closer attention to it. And that's how it will be successful. But the players just giving a rip is the most important thing. And they do right now. They do. Some of the teams that don't have a shot in it, they don't care. And you didn't see a difference really in their level of play. But when it comes down to crunch time and having a sense of urgency, that's what the NBA needs in November and December, is any sense of urgency, because teams were sleepwalking through these
It was
games.
a slog, yes. And that's the thing, is you look at the situation and you went value add. And I think that part of it is what's so interesting, is how much of the value add was there, not only for fans, but for players.
Yeah.
And I asked a handful of players, both on the Blazers and a couple of away teams over a couple of games, of, hey, does $500,000, no agent cut, does that really mean anything to you? And every single one was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the guys who have money were like, yeah.
It does mean
Yeah, no,
something.
agent isn't going to touch that. Like that's mine. That's like, so the money part of it is real. Like how real? We'll see. But what's interesting about this is they said, trust us. Look what we did with the play-in tournament. It was good. It was real. It was impactful. And now it's something that's definitely going to stay around. And it has changed the way teams build their rosters. Hey, we could find ourselves sneaking in, especially after the Miami Heat make it all the way to the NBA Finals after a play-in spot.
Yep.
That juiced it up.
Yep.
Because we're probably not going to see that again for 20 years. We're just not going to see that happen.
No, but you got it near the beginning, and that'll keep teams chasing
and
it.
you'll have that one carrot that is there. Interestingly, last night, you had the Warriors with an opportunity to get into the play-in had they won by 12 points. And to your point, they had to make a decision. If they just wanted to win the game, they could have just sat on the lead and just, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
But they sat down Moses Moody. They brought Klay Thompson back in, which Steve Kerr is in a doghouse for right now. But they made a decision to try to push for it, and it blew up in their face. Not only did they lose the game, they lost the opportunity to win by 12-plus points and to move into the play-in tournament. Now, as entertaining and as interesting as the group play was, now we're into the knockout stages. Look, one-and-done basketball, tell me when that's ever been not good.
It's good. I mean, and it will be good drama, but that will be the interesting part, is how they frame it when these games are and how much juice you can get going behind it. And because look, the Blazers had the Warriors and Who
the
else?
Mavericks.
The Mavericks.
So on the 6th and the 8th, those were the open dates for the Portland Trailblazers. And the way this thing worked was they wanted to, for every team, the games they added to your schedule were hopefully teams that you were only playing 3 times. So in your conference, you play in your division at least 4. Some other division you play 4, another division you play 3. That's typically how it goes. With this, they played the Mavericks and the Warriors 3 times in their schedule. So now they play the Mavericks 4 times and the Warriors 4 times.
Well, and good. It's a win-win either way against the Warriors because you win and the Warriors draft pick next year that you own gets better. If you lose, who
Your
cares?
own draft pick gets better.
We're good.
So it's a great scenario and a great position for the Trailblazers to be in. And I think ultimately the in-season tournament was successful. And I think for their first rollout, was it perfect? No. What's going to be interesting, again, this is what I keep hammering home. As this builds, like you said, it gets year over year. When they add 2 more teams and it gets to 16, and you have, instead of the group play being groups of 5, you have a 16-team bracket where you essentially do group play to set seeding to go into an NCAA-style tournament, which I believe is the way that they're going to head. Then I think it gets really fun and really interesting and how that whole part of the early season plays out. And if it goes down that path, then you could see the NBA season broken up into segments.
This is neat for the NBA. Good job. Good job for now.
Everybody, cried and complained about Major League Baseball that won't make changes. The changes won't be that impactful, blah, blah, blah. They made changes, and it fundamentally made their game better. It's okay to make changes to advance the progress of your game. I don't care if it's 100 years old, 150 years old, 50 years old. Being smart and proactive when it makes sense is helpful.
Look, I don't think that this has changed fan engagement of the NBA because I don't know if anybody's going to care who wins the in-season tournament.
Not in year 1, not in year 2, maybe not even in year 10. But
I don't know.
It's the same thing with soccer. It takes time to build the juice for that.
You have a better product that's out there, and that's the important part for the NBA. The product is better because the players are caring. Will the fans care? That is a big TBD.
I think if the players care, the fans will follow suit.
Yeah, but that doesn't always. It's not always the case. It's not always the case because it's just like, in the knockout stage, you're going to want your team to move on, but after your team's out, who really cares, right?
That's fair.
You're going to be like, But this is a good start. They laid a very good groundwork for this tournament actually mattering in the future.
So, and
I'm in.
Again, just a little bit. Just care a little bit more in year 1. And I think they're successful there.
It's palatable NBA basketball, because the players are playing like it's the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they were going for. All right, coming up next, we will hit on all of the hits coming out of the Oregon State press conference with Trent Bray and his introduction for the Oregon State Beavers. Coming up here. But first is a big kahuna, the Sports Center update. Danny and
This
Dusty.
is Pac-12 Championship Week with Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Red Tail Golf Center's annual store-wide holiday sale now through December 24th. Details at golfredtail.com. First on The Fan, Georgia remains the #1 team in the latest college football playoff rankings. Each of the next 4 teams moved up 1 spot. Michigan is #2, Washington 3, Florida State 4, and Oregon at #5. The Pac-12 championship game between those #3 Huskies and #5 Ducks coming up on Friday with the playoff berth likely on the line. Live coverage right here on The Fan starts Friday at 1 o'clock with Ducks Game Day. It's a 5 o'clock kick on ABC. Jets head coach Robert Saleh says the team is opening the 21-day practice window for Aaron Rodgers as he recovers from a torn Achilles suffered just 79 days ago. Rodgers said yesterday he's not yet healthy enough to play, though. Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker III doubtful tomorrow night against the Cowboys due to an oblique injury. ESPN reporting Texans offensive lineman Titus Howard needs knee surgery and will miss the rest of the season. The 2019 first-rounder also missed the first 4 games of the year with a broken hand. And with Browns quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson in concussion protocol, Joe Flacco has been taking first-team reps and could start Sunday against the Rams. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on pro and college football from across the country at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland
Trent Bray being promoted internally to head coach for the Oregon State Beavers. And now we will give you some of the highlights from the introductory press.
Yeah, like Trent Bray on, building a winner. I think this should fire Beaver fans up, what he says in here.
Trent, there was a press conference yesterday at Michigan State where the coach seemed to really emphasize that, he was at a place where he truly believed that he can build a winner. My question is, one, when did you know that he was going to be leaving? And do you truly believe that you can build a winner here?
I'll start with the latter. Yeah, I truly believe we can continue to build a winner here. I think we've proven over the last couple of years to be capable of doing that. I found out real late in the process, and it didn't sit quite right with me, which is why I wasn't in a hurry to get on the plane when he asked me to go. And then when I was presented this opportunity, I stayed even longer and wanted to hear this out and see where this could go, and best decision I've made.
I love that. Oh, I love hearing that. Like, there's a reason why I didn't get on the plane. I feel like we can build a winner here. We talked about this earlier. $10.75 million is that salary pool that they are pulling from at Michigan State for their assistant coaches. He was going to get a big pay bump to go to Michigan State with Jonathan Smith.
Bet you got a bigger pay bump to become a head coach.
You're damn right. You're damn right. And, that's everything you want to hear.
Yeah.
There's also a part where Bray said that he's not going to coach in the bowl game because he needs to get recruiting, staff building. So much more is ahead of him. That's why you have, Heinsohn is going to just call the shots, run the bowl, and he can start building this thing from the inside out and start making his staff and his roster make sense to him. He also was talking about, how you do start that process with the players.
Trent, down the final few weeks, there's some players that are a little unhappy with how Jonathan went about going and getting this other job. Are there some fences that you'll need to mend with some of these players, and how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think, the good thing is I have experience in this field. As a player, I went through a coaching change where we won too many games and our coach took off. So I have some experience in that. And yeah, there's initial anger and all those things, but I think it goes back to the trust that's built over time that I've been fortunate enough to build with a lot of these guys. It's a little easier to mend those fences when there's trust and belief that's already here. So it hasn't been too hard. Conversations have been really good. They like it here. I'll give Coach Smith a ton of credit. He built a great program where these kids feel valued and welcome. And so every player on the team. So we continue to push that forward, that kind of culture that the team has, and hopefully take it to the next step.
That's why the players felt so burnt, is because what he ended that with. Jonathan Smith made everybody feel valued, loved, love those guys up, feel like you're part of the culture and the fabric of Oregon State football. And when you have a coach who does that and does it successfully and he leaves, that's why
it hurts more.
Stings that much more. And there is some mending that needs to be done by Coach Bray to make sure that those guys know, like, hey, that value is still there. He may be gone, but the guys who stayed, nothing has changed with us.
No, this isn't Gary Anderson leaving and the entire organization being like, see ya.
Yeah. Good riddance.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
It's not one of those situations. That's the thing is, and that's, you always talk about this, why, relationships, when they hurt the most, it's when you care the most.
Yep.
I don't think Jonathan Smith was fake. I don't think he was conniving, or I think he just did what he thought was best for himself and his family.
Yep.
I don't think that's selfish.
No. Trent Bray, we've heard this one before from coaches.
Coach, you've been a part of this program now for a majority of your life back here, but to be here at this part of your life, the head coach, is this a dream position for you at your time?
Yeah, because I think this is, like I said earlier, this is the only university that I'd want to be the head coach at. And there were other opportunities to go coordinate and do all that, which I love. I love coordinating and hands-on day-to-day coaching, but the opportunity to lead this place, especially, I think real leaders show up when times are hard. And we're in a little bit of a tough situation with everything that's happened over the last year in college football. And to me, that made it so much more important that I step in the fight and help this place.
Ooh, dream job. Heard that before, huh?
Eerily familiar.
But he is always boomerang back, right? Player there, coach comes back.
It's a very similar
there.
path. And look, if Jonathan Smith was 15 years younger, he doesn't leave because his coaching path would have been different. The fact that he's already done the experience stuff, been behind the scenes, had those other opportunities, he's gone bigger and bigger and bigger, right? This is the same kind of path for Brate, even if he's getting the head coaching gig a little bit earlier, but he's younger. And so
he's not that much younger than Jonathan Smith. I mean, they dang near overlapped at Oregon State.
But the progression tree as far as like where he is in his career. And I think that's that's a part of this.
And that's going to be the hard part is like there will be coaching is a nomadic profession. You move, you bounce, you go from one place to the next. It is very rare to have the guy who sticks around for a really long time, and you just hope that when you hire a guy, that's it. He will never leave you. And maybe Trent Bray is that guy. I mean, he sounds like it. He sounds like his loyalty to Oregon State is second to none. But we also thought that when Jonathan Smith had his introductory press conference too, right? I mean, we honestly, we all felt that way because he was taking over a program that was a complete dumpster fire. And it was, who's going to want this job? Well, Jonathan Smith wanted that job, and he did an incredible job with it. And now Trent Bray takes that program over in a far better place than it was when Jonathan Smith took it over. And you hope he can take it to the next heights. And that's why, like, him not coaching the bowl game, I actually love hearing that from him. Like, he understands what the priorities are, and it ain't winning a bowl game.
No.
Well, because you've already named an interim head coach, too, who has likely been working on things with the players. And so that just creates another, not just distraction, but a speed bump in your preparation.
All part of the plan, my friends. All part of the plan.
Hey, look, Oregon State's doing this the right way.
Yep.
Man, did you get anything out of that press conference or that you didn't like, or is there anything that you felt that was left out?
No, because look, most of it is all just coach speak. Yeah. I really appreciate him saying, there's a reason why I didn't get on the plane. I wasn't excited to get on the plane and go with him.
A little bit surprised he said it publicly, but it's also it's a nice little.
See, that's what I do like.
It's a unifying statement.
And
of
he said,
"Hey, it's us against them."
I had the chance.
Yeah,
I had the chance,
and I chose
said no.
you over them.
Yeah,
even if
let's get a little touch.
I'm not saying this, but even if it wasn't real, it's a great It's a great unifying force.
Jonathan Smith's going to come out and be like, I never asked him to come. like, too late now. We already have it as the rallying cry, jerk.
Beat you to it. All right, speaking of beat you to it, we'll take a look and see ahead of Oregon-Washington here on Friday afternoon why it matters that Oregon is above Texas in the college football playoff rankings. Danny and Dusty, 10 Fan.
Seahawks football is on the Fan.
they just continue to impress the committee with both the offense and the defense.
What consideration was given to the common opponent that those two have? Texas beat Texas Tech by 50, and Oregon beat them by 1 possession.
Yeah, we look at everything, as we've talked about each week that we've been here. We're not relying on one single data point, one single game. We're looking at, we're through 13 weeks right now and making sure that as we do go through it, we are comparing everything.
I mean, I understand what Reese Davis is doing because Texas Tech just got doors blown off them by Texas.
The circular logic that we have been kicking around all day today.
But Baron Morton is the quarterback now for Texas
Not
Tech.
Tyler Shough because
Tyler Shough. He threw for 88 yards in the game. Like, he's not very good at quarterback. So let's not act like it's the exact same team that they were playing against. When they're down a starting quarterback and then later in the year, guess what? Teams can get better. And that's the thing I hate about college football is that teams can get better. But the committee viewing Oregon ahead of Texas is huge heading into this game. They are. The score may be a big difference in the score, but the transitive property, it never holds up. Because also you could look at it and you could say, all right, go look at Texas Tech's record under Joey McGuire at home and their record on the road. They're god-awful on the road under Joey McGuire. God-awful. I think they only won like 2 games on the road under him. And they were undefeated before Oregon went into Lubbock.
And the committee will also say that they take injuries into consideration, but so that doesn't mean just for the top teams. It means for the ones that the top teams are playing.
Your quarterback is pretty important. I read that.
Somewhere.
I read that.
I feel like it's
USA Today. I read that.
little bit overrated.
Read that in USA Today. But it's huge to have that bump by the committee, and I know Texas fans are really upset about it because you go into Tuscaloosa and you win by 2 scores, right? You were more impressive early in the year on the road against Alabama than the Ducks were in Lubbock against Texas Tech. But I think what this mostly has to do with is Oregon's defense is a completely different animal than it was week 1, week 2, month 2.
I 100% agree.
In November.
And I'd say the offense has evolved in certain ways too.
That unit is insane. And yeah, the offensively, look, you go back to that Stanford game and maybe the UW game where Terrence Ferguson started popping off, and he has been incredible. He has been an incredible receiving threat. Troy Franklin has been consistent and good all season long. And Tez Johnson as well has become a far better weapon. He's actually outpacing in the back half of the season. I can't remember who put it out there. It may have been Eric Scopel from Duck Territory put it out there. Tez Johnson's numbers in the back half of the season are better than Troy Franklin's.
Yeah, he's had a bunch of catch and goes. His yak. I'd love. Why does college just a crappy job of keeping track of yak yards?
I don't know. Because you have like college interns.
I guess, but like just watching the games, he takes